Taylor Swift is one of the biggest stars on the planet. With a net worth of $450 billion, 11 Grammys, and 10 studio albums, she lives a life many could never relate to, or even picture living themselves. But somehow the Netflix documentary, Miss Americana, manages to make Swift seem like a relatable everyday person and gives us what seems like a deeply personal look into her extremely abnormal life. Miss Americana follows famous singer-songwriter Taylor Swift over several years of her career, as she learns about the power she holds when it comes to educating the youth about things like voting, as well as showing the process of her writing, recording, and releasing her album Lover. The documentary also showcases some more sensitive parts of Swift's life, such as her experiences with eating disorders and dealing with her mother's cancer diagnosis. After its release, the documentary received massive praise for how intimate and empowering it felt. This made me wonder what editing techniques were used by the filmmakers to make this documentary feel like an extremely personal dive into the singer's life. One of the things that stood out to me a lot while watching the documentary is that the crew are edited to be out of vision throughout the entire runtime. The film is edited in a way which cuts out any asked questions or input by the interviewer. This creates a much more personal feeling while watching, as instead of feeling like an interview, it seems like a conversation that the viewer themselves could be having with Swift. Another thing that stands out is the use of montages. There are several used in the film to quickly show the progression of Swift's career, and supply those who aren't fans of her backstory on her life. These are used to make the documentary accessible to people who don't know much about Swift, as they don't have to do their own research before watching. These montages include things like news clips of anchors talking about their hatred for the singer, making her seem like an underdog in the documentary's narrative, causing viewers to root for her and feel sympathy. The music used within these montages is also quite emotional, enhancing the viewer's reaction. The editor may have chosen this footage to add more drama and narrative to the film and engage viewers more. The actual documentary itself consists mainly of actuality footage of Swift in the process of making her album and her backstage at concerts. They rarely show footage of her on stage or in other public settings that we see her in often. By showing us this footage that the public would never normally see, we feel like we are getting a much more personal look into her life. There is also a lack of music in these clips. The editor may have chosen to exclude music to make it feel much more like a real life moment we are a part of, rather than an over-edited fiction show. As we go through her daily routine and the stages of her writing her songs, this footage gives us much more of an understanding on how Swift works and adds an extra layer of meaning to her album for those who are fans. Another type of footage that they use that really stands out to me is that they use old home videos of Swift from before she was famous. This footage makes the viewer feel like we know Swift personally, as we would normally only see this kind of footage from close friends and family. It's edited in chronological order as well, so we see the development of her career just like her close family and friends would, creating a much more personal atmosphere and making the viewer care more about Swift's career and her new albums, as we're now invested in seeing how it turns out. Overall, throughout the entire film, the editor makes choices such as the footage and music used to immerse us into Swift's personal life, giving us a feeling of her being a very authentic and vulnerable person we can easily sympathise with, rather than her coming off as an extremely rich and closed-off individual.